something's happening and I don't understand it and I don't like it.
I need help. Someone help me. I'm like literally crying for help.
That sense of no hope is just everywhere.
Hi, we'd like to welcome you to our evening of music and conversation. I'm Rob Koss, Executive Director of Gathering in the Green. Based in Mequon, Wisconsin, Gathering in the Green is a nonprofit whose mission is bridging communities through music. Now in our 26th year, we're very proud of our community outreach and engagement activities, our partnerships, and our Music Together program run by our program director, Tracy Kane. For more information, you can go to our website, gatheringinthegreen.org, or follow us on Facebook to keep us up to date. This evening was made possible by grants from the Charles E. Kubley Foundation and Capco Metal Stamping. I'd like to take a moment to thank our host, Foxtown on West Mequon Road in Mequon, Wisconsin. Foxtown Brewing, which opened to the public in 2020 at nearly 7,000 square feet, is the first new business in the mixed-use development of Foxtown. It is a beer hall and restaurant and will form part of a 17-acre town center on West Mequon Road with residential units, office space, and retail. Originally built in 1857, the original architecture of the main building has been restored, as well as the significant additions that have been made over the years. The restoration sits atop the crown jewels, 2 levels of lager caves. The caves sit relatively unchanged from the building's early days of beer production. Foxtown is indeed a reclamation of Mequon history. Foxtown Annex is 20,000 square feet of new construction and is the second new project in Foxtown. It is located next to the brewery and features a pub with meeting, multi-use, and retail spaces. North Shore Boulangerie has expanded with a location at Foxtown. It is large enough to house its entire baking operations, where its neighbor will be a butcher shop called Foxtown Meats. The shops are the next phase for the development, which already has a brew pub and apartments. There's much more to come, including a bistro and beer lounge with fire pits in the spring, plus a private event venue for up to 400, as well as more shops, offices, extended stay rooms, and also single-family homes. We want to thank Foxtown for adding so much for our community and for being our host for today's event. And now, please join me in welcoming our moderator, Terry McGuire. As both a former news reporter and anchor in Milwaukee TV and a voice and video talent, our moderator, Terry McGuire, has earned a living with her voice for the last 4 decades. After losing loved ones to suicide and experiencing her worst ever depression, Terry decided to give voice to depression. She founded a nonprofit organization and launched the Giving Voice to Depression podcast 4 years ago. As its producer, she has interviewed hundreds of people about their experiences living with mental health challenges, stories that have been heard nearly 500,000 times, offering connection, information, and hope to people across the globe. Terry also created and runs an online peer support community on Facebook where nearly 10,000 people find a safe place to share and find support. Terry will be joined by Zach Meyer. Zach Meyer is a licensed professional counselor who has been working with kids and teens for more than 20 years. He's also been writing, producing, and recording music for even longer. At the intersection of these 2 passions, Zach has crafted a unique professional practice centered on the power of story, the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we want to tell others. Whether it's through psychological counseling or creativity coaching, Zach is passionate about helping young people make the changes necessary to live out their authentic lives and rewarding stories. Also joining us is Dimitra Prohaska. Dimitra is a 21-year-old singer-songwriter from Port Washington, Wisconsin. She captivates her audience with her pop folk acoustic style. She's a self-taught piano and guitar player who has been writing her own songs since she was 14. Dimitra started performing back in 2017, winning multiple local competitions, including Best of Blueberg Cafe and her People Choice Award for 2017. She also won the Cool Notes Music Talent Competition in 2018. Dimitra would also sing the national anthem at various high school and college sporting events. She has also been part of multiple annual Cedarburg festivals. You can find out more about Dimitra on her social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, Snapchat, and YouTube. And now, please join me in welcoming our moderator, Terry McGuire.
Thank you, Rob. And I want to point out that Rob used the word conversation, and that is the goal here, because I think few, if any of us, have had it modeled to us that you can have a casual and non-stigmatized and without shame conversation about mental health, about mental unwellness, about mental illnesses. And that's what we need to start doing, because it's just long overdue, and not having these conversations is not only limiting and stigmatizing, but it's really dangerous. So I want to start by thanking you both for being here, being willing to have this conversation. And Zach, as a therapist, let me start by asking you what you see as the most common challenges to mental health in the age group we're focusing on, which is middle and high school students.
Yeah. Well, it's changed a bit in the years I've been doing this. It used to kind of run the gamut from behavioral issues, academic issues, some anxiety and depression. What I've noticed has been kind of a distinct shift toward more anxiety and depression as the predominant presenting issues that I see. It seems like a lot of students are pretty stressed out a lot of the time.
And Dimitri, you're a bit older than the target audience here, which enables you to both speak freely and with a little bit of perspective.
Yeah.
Those are two things that you have dealt with or do deal with in your life, anxiety and depression?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I've struggled with anxiety and depression for a good 8 years now, I think, as far as I can remember. As far as I could say, identifying it as depression and anxiety. So yeah, I do have a lot of insight and experience with it. So
tell me what those two things look like for you. When you experience anxiety, how is it different than when someone says, yeah, I have a test tomorrow, I'm anxious too? What's different about, I was going to say real, but clinical anxiety?
Are you asking like symptoms or?
Yes, your experience of it, what it's like for you.
For me, I get very tense, and it's hard to breathe sometimes, and it's hard to think clearly and talk, I guess. It kind of just overpowers you. So it's, sure, you can have nerves and stuff, that's pretty normal. And I feel like the difference would be the severity of it and how much it can affect your life and I guess put your life on pause, or I guess prevent you from moving on from your anxious racing thoughts and yeah, stuff like that.
If you're okay with it, I'll come back to you about depression, because I want to ask Zach.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that pretty much like when you are talking to someone and they're discussing anxiety, whether or not they know that that's the name for what they're experiencing? How do you draw the lines between, well, you're feeling anxious because it's an anxious time in your life, and this might be something that you need to deal with and treat?
That's a really good question. Yeah, because anxiety is normal. If you and I weren't anxious about this today, we wouldn't have prepared, all that kind of thing. But when anxiety starts to kind of get bigger than the subject of the anxiety, when it's kind of bigger than it should be, and when it interferes with your life, that's when it becomes a problem. So that's what I'll ask the students about that I work with. I'll say, are you missing school? Are you so nervous that you can't eat? Are you having trouble sleeping? That kind of thing. And like Demetra said, so often the symptoms of anxiety are physical. You're not sitting there thinking, I'm feeling very anxious. Mm-hmm. You have a stomach ache, or you can't breathe, or you're feeling jittery, that kind of thing. So often students will come to me with those physical complaints. Maybe they've been to their pediatrician first and they can't find a problem. Mm-hmm. And they, as far as they can tell, there's something physical going on, and then I have to kind of give them the words and say, that's anxiety, that's what you're feeling.
And do you find that people are like, oh no, I have a mental health diagnosis, or oh, there's a word for it?
I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of both because there still is a stigma about mental health. People are so afraid of having some kind of mental health diagnosis, but it is so helpful to kind of know there is a name, because our brains run on language, and so when we can kind of name something, acknowledge that this is a thing that exists, we kind of go, oh, okay, so that means that there are solutions and approaches that we can take to kind of address the issue. So it's a bit of a mix of both, but I always have hope when it comes to anxiety because there are so many things that can be done to improve the situation.
Let's get to that. What are some of the things, and then Demetra, I'm very curious as to which you use in your life to manage the anxiety when it escalates in your own being.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's not always gonna like be the same. So like stuff may work for you at some point, and like other times it may be very like unmanageable, and you may have to find another thing to use. But normally, for me, I will like listen to music or anything with music. If I just start like singing or something, and or do anything to do to get my mind off of something, like do puzzles, do like color, like literally like talk to a friend, talk to an authority figure, like someone. I'm a very like open person, and I don't hide the fact that I'm struggling, which I know like some kids do, but I don't hide how I'm feeling, because for me at least, I don't really see like a benefit for me, like in pretending that I'm okay.
Absolutely.
Because in the long run, it's just going to hurt you more. So yeah, for dealing with anxiety, I really just try to turn to anybody that I trust to really be like, hey, I'm struggling right now. Like I need like this, or I need to talk this through, and like try to piece together what my racing thoughts are, like what is going on in my head right now, because at this point I have no idea what's going on, and it's just kind of scary sometimes.
I think it's so amazing. I don't want to use the word impressive because I don't want to judge it that way, but I didn't have the language at your age. I don't know that I have the language now. You know, it's just something's happening and I don't understand it and I don't like it, but I have not reached out. I have not done what I'm learning from you, can be real helpful to do. And I'm wondering, Zach, when you talk about the tools that can help someone with anxiety, I think of grounding exercises, right? I read the, 5 things you see, 4 things you smell, those kinds of things. What are some, other than talking to someone and knowing yourself well enough to know that perhaps music is going to be instrumental in bringing you back to center, what are some things that you see that work with your clients?
Yeah. So I noticed that, Demetra, you were kind of talking about, in what you just said, a lot of kind of mental symptoms. You notice you'll have like racing thoughts, and you know it helps to talk to someone else. So when it comes to anxiety that's kind of taking place in your mind, it can be helpful to use distraction techniques. Put on some music, talk to a friend, provide your brain something else to focus on, because it's hard to focus on 2 things at once.
Yeah.
And so hopefully it can kind of help your brain shift over. But the thing that we're understanding more and more about anxiety and depression is that they don't just occur in the brain, they affect your body as well. And so when you're having those physical symptoms of anxiety, a racing heart, oh, I just hit my microphone, a racing heart, having a hard time breathing, a headache, stomach ache, that kind of thing, doing things to calm your body can be really helpful. The most helpful thing the first thing I teach all my clients is just to learn how to take some deep, slow breaths.
Right.
And they, especially the young kids, I'll say, does this seem too simple? And they'll say, yeah, this is kind of dumb. And I'll tell them, okay, I can teach you other things, but 90% of my clients, this is the favorite coping skill that they learn because you can do it anywhere, anytime. And it's as simple as just taking a nice, slow, deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. 10 of those, and you're going to feel very different because your body can't be relaxed and anxious at the same time. And so that sends a powerful message to your body to calm down, and it can really, especially with practice, help you learn how to kind of steer your body back toward calm when it's getting amped up with anxiety.
Demetra, is deep breathing or breathing exercises something you use?
Yeah, I definitely use the breathing exercises. For me, grounding is like, it's more difficult, but it also does take a lot of practice if you want to, like get used to it or like feel like the full effects of it. So I know for me, like deep breathing helps. So, yeah.
Good. So let's shift to depression. Full disclosure, that's something I live with. And I am very aware of the physical more than, as much as, and sometimes more than, the mental manifestation of it. And, you know, I have the variety of withdrawing, you know, not answering phone calls, not answering texts, just wanting to be in bed, having a real hard time connecting. I know other people get very, very angry and volatile, and that, to me, I didn't even realize was a symptom of depression. What do you think that we need to look for in ourselves, like, hey, you know, that those things you're feeling might be depression, and in each other, so that we can say, hey, you might want to get that checked. Have you ever done a self-diagnostic test online, or have you ever talked to your doctor about this?
Right. So depression, just like anxiety, has a ton of different presentations, especially in young people, because, again, if you don't have the words to say, I think I'm depressed, I mean, I think a lot of adults don't even know quite what that really means until it hits them, if it does. So most young people will just kind of not feel like themselves. You'll be sleeping more or less, or eating more or less, or not enjoying the kind of things that you usually enjoy, whether that's hobbies or relationships. And you will be having more just kind of dark, hopeless thoughts. So if any of that is going on, that's a great sign that there's some depression going on.
And I know personally that when you have those thoughts, there's no room for, but I just feel that way now.
Right, no.
Someday I will experience joy again. Someday I will want to be with my friends again, or I will like anything I used to like again. You just think, or at least I and many of the people I've spoken with, think this is the way it is now, which is very dangerous because you spiral down and can feel no hope.
Yeah, that's the hardest, scariest thing about depression, because it's not like, gosh, how do I describe it? It's not like this corner of your mind that you can observe and go, oh, that's going on over there, right, but I've got perspective. The rest of me is over here and I'm fine, but that's no fun. I'm going to ignore that. It's happening everywhere you look in your brain.
Everywhere.
And so you can't get outside of it. So you're right, you very quickly lose perspective, which is why it's so scary. Mm-hmm. That sense of no hope is just everywhere. You can't get around it.
Demetra, how would you describe it when you are what I usually call in it?
Yeah. For me, it's like, I mean, I've been, like, I'm pretty experienced on, like, ways to cope and stuff. Like, you learn, like, oh, if you're feeling this, you can do this or this. And it's like, for me, I know what to do and stuff. And then when I'm in that rut, it's like, no matter what you think or do or say or whatever, like, you just can't get yourself to, like, just start. And then if you, for me, I normally ruminate on the fact, like, oh, like, I can't even do this, like, I'm a failure, like, I know how to get myself out of this, but I can't. Like, you just start spiraling and ruminating on, like, all this stuff that you can't do in the moment, or you're not, I don't know, I mean, I don't know, there's, like, a lot of stuff that I've, like, gone through with depression. Like, when you said with, like, the anger, like, I didn't know you could be angry either until it happened to me last year. I've never been, like, I'm not an angry, like, outburst type person, but last year it happened, and I was, like, it was really weird, because, like, any little thing would just make me so mad, and I was like, why am I feeling this way? Like, this is not me, like, right. But I would just get really angry and just cry uncontrollably. Like, I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying. Like, it was just uncontrollable, unmanageable, and, like, really, like, suicidal, and it just all happened at once. And it, like, stress was, like, a really big, like, trigger. It's a really big trigger for me, so.
I deeply feel and relate to everything you're saying, and I'm sorry you understand it so well. what are some of the things, oh, I got tears in my eyes. What are some of the things that you know work for you? Because one of the things that I've learned the hardest of ways is that if we can notice the early symptoms, the early warning signs, we can still access some of those tools, some of those coping techniques. Whereas, as you said, when we're there, you know, the energy, you know, I always say, like, just look up for the light. Tipping my head back seems like too much work. You know, it's like, why? What's the point? But upstream, I can do a whole lot of things. I can say, ooh, you know, this is not my normal me. And I know that if I A, B, C, D, and X, Y, Z, I can maybe prevent the slide or lessen it. What are those things that you know work for you?
I mean, like, really, like I was saying earlier, like, writing songs really helps me. Because last year when I was like really in a depressive state, I just wrote a lot of songs, and like some were very like uplifting, and then there was one song in particular, it was kind of, it's called I'm Not Okay, basically saying like it's okay to not be okay, and like it was probably one of like the most personal songs that I've ever written. So like I mean, I have the lyrics on me, but it's on my phone right now. But like, it's pretty relatable, and it's pretty crazy. Like, I would like love to, I guess, show that more, because most people think like, oh, I'm not okay. Like, I'm, you know, like I'm failing at life. But like realistically, we're not perfect. We're not all gonna be okay. Like, we're gonna struggle. We're gonna go through hard times. Like, it's just how you get back up. So for me, songwriting and music is really like my main purpose, and like what I use to get back up.
Which is the perfect segue to taking a break and hearing one of Demetra's original songs that we hope you can relate to, and that it might help you to hear in the same way that it helped her to write and perform.
I don't want to die, don't want to live a life like this. I admit, all I feel is pain, like it'll never go away. Such a shame that I may never know what it's like to be happy, that I may never know what it's like to feel okay. I want to scream at the top of my lungs, someone please help me, 'cause right now I don't think I'll ever feel okay. These four white walls are caving in, don't even know where to begin, 'cause all these thoughts that are in my mind drive me insane. I can't wait another day, hear me out, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I don't want to cry, don't want to live a life afraid who I became. All I see is scars beating round my broken heart. I'm torn apart. Yeah, I may never know what it's like to be happy. Yeah, I may never know what it's like to feel okay. I want to scream at the top of my lungs, someone please help me, yeah, 'cause right now I don't think I'll ever feel okay. These four white walls are caving in, don't even know where to begin, 'cause all these thoughts that are in my mind drive me insane. I can't wait another day,
Okay, let's talk about that song. Let's talk about the feelings behind it, but also there's great hope in it too, because you're saying, hey, I am not okay, and I want you to know that, because that's the only way anybody's going to know, because we hide behind fine. And when someone says, how are you? And you say, fine, or you just go to your room and close the door, nobody can help.
Yeah.
And I also acknowledge the reality that we can say we're not fine and we still might not get the help we need, but that was impactful. I'm kind of a mess over here. Talk to me about the feelings of not thinking you'll ever be happy or okay again.
It definitely was very real when I wrote this song. It was definitely a huge cry for help, because at that point I didn't know where to go, who to turn to. Like, I felt like I was turning to everybody that I could, my friends, my family. Like, I felt like no matter what I tried to do, like nothing was helping. Like, I wasn't feeling any better. So then, like, months later, I decided to, like, you know, like go to like treatment and stuff, because that was, for me, the only option that I saw that I could do to like get out of it, because it was like basically the whole year last year it was bad. It probably the worst that it's ever been. No matter who I reached out to, I never like had that feeling like that I'm like there was no hope or no point. But even writing this song, there is, like you said, like there is hope, because I'm admitting, hey, like, yeah, hey, I'm not okay. Like, I need help. Someone help me. I'm like literally crying for help. Like, yeah.
So Zach, how do you encourage someone without the natural strength? No, I don't necessarily want to say strength, because I don't want someone to feel like they're weak if they can't do it or they're not inclined to do it, but the inclination to be honest about your feelings, and also the talent to say it that clearly and that brilliantly. How do you say to somebody who's feeling that way, tell somebody?
Mm-hmm. That song reminded me that the two biggest emotions that kind of come with depression, we talked about the hopelessness already, but the second one is guilt. When you're depressed, you feel like you don't want to share it with anybody because it'll be a burden. And so you try to keep it in, but that just makes you feel worse, because things that we keep secret have a lot more power. When we've only kept them to ourselves, they can just kind of grow bigger, and we can decide whatever we want to think about them. So there's power in just speaking things out loud. So that was one of my favorite things about that song, that you just, even though you couldn't connect with anybody who you thought could help, you still kind of put it out there. You still got it out of your head and just said, I'm not okay. And there's power in that. There's power in not keeping these things in. So it doesn't need to be a song. It can be as simple as just kind of pushing past that guilt and trusting the teachers or parents or adults in your life that they can handle what you're going through. That if you share with them that you're not okay, you know, they've got the life experience, they've got the knowledge of who to connect you to help you in that. And to help you hold that big emotion. And so often I see kids in my office, it's just such a relief to kind of speak it out loud and just have another human acknowledge it and say, that sounds awful. That sounds really hard. I'm sorry you're going through that.
And we just have to acknowledge that not everybody's parents can and will.
That's true.
And that the adults in somebody's life might not be their trusted source for support. Mm-hmm. So in that instance, I know it's dangerous to tell another teenager, mm-hmm. especially if you say, don't tell anybody. And we can talk about the choice that leaves somebody. Mm-hmm. But if it's not your parents, you know, mm-hmm. some trusted adult, whether that's an auntie or a neighbor or an 800 number.
Sure.
You know, but let's acknowledge the reality that not everybody's parents are going to put their arm around them and say, have the time, have the wherewithal, have the the intuition, have whatever the skill set to say, I'll get you in to see a very good
Sure.
counselor like Zach. You know, it didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
So what do they do?
I've heard of plenty of students I've worked with who confided in a friend, and the friend kind of had more connections than they did. The friend had a therapist who they reached out to and asked for help, or the friend reached out to a guidance counselor at school and said, hey, I need you to talk to my friend. They're not okay. And so I would encourage students to talk to their friends. And there are a lot of resources, whether it's a number or whether it's websites. There are fantastic resources online for just finding not only information, but connection to people who are kind of in a similar place, or people who have also experienced depression or anxiety, but who are feeling a little better and can offer you some hope that things do improve.
And that's the power of peer support, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to always being a professional that, you know, if you and I were talking, I can say, I've been there, because I've been there. And all of a sudden you realize, A, you're not alone. B, at some point, you know, you may, I mean, you're here now as well, but
Yeah.
I could be talking to you on the phone, and it could be one of those times it's hard to get out of bed, and I can say, look, I did shower today. And remind you that that can happen. So you mentioned treatment, and that is certainly one of the options. I'm curious, not why you went or what that experience was like so much as what you've learned in treatment that helps you about self-care, about management, about whatever it is that made that effort worth it, and that might encourage someone else who thinks that's way down the road. I mean, there are people who resist telling someone, and then there's people who resist therapy. So, you know, that's taking really good care of yourself and recognizing that there's quite a need there.
Yeah, I mean, even like before what you guys were talking about with the whole like not being like confiding in a parent, like I was confiding in my high school counselor, because I didn't like think my parents could like manage the stress that I would be bringing onto them, you know, like
Hence the burden.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, but yeah, eventually like the way that I got into like treatment was like, I guess my parents like couldn't really like get my needs met, so like I was actually like in the foster system for a year. And that's how I went to treatment. And being in treatment, it was like a self-discovery for me, because I didn't know who I was, and me being a surviving quintuplet, like me being around my 3 other sisters, were just grouped as the girls, or like just grouped as like one person. Like I didn't know who I was. Like I didn't know anything about myself. So like being away from that and having time to like reflect and work on myself and be comfortable with myself, like that's a huge thing. It really, I don't know, it just opens your eyes and gives you a new perspective on life. Like you don't really think, some people may think like, oh, treatment is kind of like you just fake it till you make it. No, I mean, you could do that, but like ideally you're not going to get anything out of it if you do. The best thing for you to do would be to like go like deep within yourself and like ask yourself like or tell yourself like, I'm here for a reason. Like I wouldn't be here they wouldn't just like pick some random person off the streets and be like, okay, like you're going to put you in this treatment, whatever. Like there's a reason. Everybody has a reason that they're in treatment, and it's not like a bad thing either that you need like extra help. So yeah, with treatment it just really helped me know myself better.
I love that no matter how hard it is and how dark it's gotten for you, you have seemingly never lost sight of the fact that you're worth fighting for. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of trial and errors, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotten there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Because you said that being in treatment was kind of a process of self-discovery.
Yes.
And I'm curious how that process changed your battle with anxiety and depression, if at all.
I mean, with the self-discovery, I mean, realizing like, I mean, it's basically you just get to know yourself, like what you don't like, and then it's as simple as like learning like new hobbies or like learning how to build relationships with people and just like work through like trauma and work through your whole life upbringing. And I would say like really acknowledging the time like away from the outside world, like with no phone, no internet, no like nothing. Like I think it's very important for people to do that these days, to just like take a social media detox, take a phone detox, like do like anything you can to like take care of your mental health and your physical well-being as well, because like you can get really caught up in it and it can really affect how you manage your depression or how you deal with anxiety or your overall perspective on it too. Like, oh, like I can never get better, or like it'll never, like I'll never see light again. I feel like if you like detox from like the sources that you're looking at, or like comparing yourself to people, like your lives and stuff, like I feel like eventually you'll start to see like I'm literally another person in this world, struggling, trying to figure out who I am, trying to figure out, hey, I'm struggling right now, like what do I got to do to help myself? I don't have to worry about what my friends are doing, what these celebrities are doing today, or what videos or what events I'm missing out on. Like, if you really take the time to focus on yourself and like getting to know yourself, it's a pretty long journey. I'd say it's well worth it too, because you just got to learn to trust yourself.
I think what you're saying is super important. And it hadn't occurred to me before today, but this is definitely something I noticed that, you know, like Terry, you were asking, you know, what are your coping skills? How have you learned to cope with your depression and anxiety? And they're unique to you. You had to kind of try on a lot of things and see what works best. And I think you're very right that today's students, you guys, are so, if you want, you can be occupied and kind of distracted all day. But things like depression, anxiety, some of these mental health concerns we're talking about, they'll be there just kind of waiting for you when the screen goes dark or when it's time for bed. And unless you know how to kind of spend time with yourself and know who you are, those things are going to feel extra scary and extra hard to face. And so I do the same thing with my clients. I try to get them to talk about and kind of just get to know, like, what do they like? What really helps them? A lot of them have no idea when we start. And so we have to kind of try different things and figure out what are the passions that can still kind of get them a little interested when they're depressed, or what soothes them the most. Here's 5 things to try. So I second that. I think that's great advice, to just put the devices down, spend some time with yourself, and get to know yourself. Because sometimes beautiful things come out. You know, sometimes you not only discover information about yourself, but some creative expression.
I was gonna say that's how I also started like getting really intense into like songwriting. I was in treatment when I started writing songs. Well, not really started, but started really like going deep into writing songs. And I was writing, like, there was one time I wrote like 30 songs in a year. Like, it was pretty crazy, but like you really do surprise yourself, like what you can do when you're not distracted all the time. Like, some people say, oh, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Well, I mean, I'm not saying you should like not go on your phone all the time, but I mean, maybe if you take time to like detox from like social media or whatever, sit down and be like, what am I going to do today? What do I want to do? Not what do my parents want me to do? What do my friends want me to do? Like, what do I want to do right now? And just like ask yourself that every day, like what do I want to do? Like, take time to make yourself happy and not try to please other people.
That sounds like the perfect segue to another break where we can be reminded that we are not just our diagnoses, that our depression, our anxiety, whatever we're dealing with is just one piece of ourselves. And in Demetra's case, another huge piece of herself is her creative side and her absolute talents that we're about to see on display again.
Today's the day that I last saw your face. I picture the world and all their evergreens. You smile lit up the sky, now it's just me. You tell me that it's all gonna be okay. Just picture us dancing like we're all alone. Laugh until our face muscles get sore. As all I want is to see you tonight. Don't let me change my mind. I need you here with me. I wanna know what it's like to be loved by you. I wanna learn the smell of your perfume. I want you to show me the real you inside. So darling, let's go run and hide. Today's the day you told me that you're free. You're finally free from all the demons that would hold you back and say things you don't mean. You tell me that it's all gonna be okay. Now hold on to every little thing you said. The photographs I never took instead, they're in my head. And all I want is to see you tonight. Please help me change my mind. I wanna be there for you. I wanna know what it's like to be loved by you. I wanna learn the smell of your perfume. Yeah, I want you to show me the real you inside. So darling, let's go run and hide. I wanna know what it's like to hold your hand. Will I end up falling for you or just remain friends? So I can tell you everything I feel inside. So darling, let's go run and hide. And all I want is to see you tonight. Please help me change my mind. I need you here with me. I wanna know what it's like to be loved by you. I wanna hear you say you'll be home soon, so I can wrap my arms around you one more time. So darling, let's go run and hide before we have to say goodbye.
We are recording this conversation about a year in to the pandemic, and there isn't a person who on some level, on lots and lots of levels probably, hasn't been affected by it. And among the many things it is impacting is our mental health. And Zach, on the break, you were saying you expect to be dealing with the fallout from this for decades.
Yeah, I think, so here's what I've noticed. You know, some people, like if you're like a single adult and you can work from home, oh, it's kind of cool. You can just kind of, you know, wear yoga pants all day and work and like, there hasn't been that much disruption. But I've got clients who, this past year was maybe their senior year of high school. And they'd been working so hard to get onto the varsity team for their sport and it didn't play this year. Or this was their freshman year at college and they didn't go. They're doing remote learning. Or some big school trip that they've been fundraising for years got canceled. I think for students especially, this has been so disruptive. I've got a daughter who would have been, well no, I've got a son who this would have been his first grade year, and it's all virtual. So his first year sitting at a desk, learning in this new way, and it just kind of hasn't happened. And so the thing about this pandemic is, even if you've got a ton of support, even if you are having a good attitude about it, it's gonna disrupt you whether you want it to or not. And I think we all need to acknowledge that on some level, that's a bit traumatic. There are these changes being forced on us that we did not choose. And there's something good about kind of trying to keep going because things that are familiar feel safe. And so we kind of want to keep going about our day. But I feel like every day I bump into things that remind me, oh, this isn't normal. I can't expect things to be the way they've always been. I haven't had a client in my office in a year. Everything's virtual. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge that this is hard, that doing school via Zoom is way different and very challenging. I just hear from a lot of students, you know, they'll come and say, I'm not able to focus as well, like, is there something wrong with me? And it's just like, no. Sitting in a classroom when you've got friends there, and there's a teacher who you can interact with, and you get up and move throughout the day and go to different classes, is way different from sitting in your bedroom in front of a screen for 6 hours or whatever. So this is just really hard. And I think that's the most important thing I want to say, just that this is a little bit traumatic, and it's important that we acknowledge that and don't pretend that everything's fine. It's hard.
Thank you. It's good to name that.
Yeah.
So one of my concerns working in suicide prevention is that there's a benefit to having eyes on each other and to noticing that someone is more sullen or more angry, or you know, all of the symptoms that we've talked about. And you just notice, hey, you used to come out with us, or you haven't showed up at a game, or whatever it might be. And we don't have any of those checks and balances in this current time. So how has the pandemic affected our ability to intervene on someone's behalf if we think that they might be suicidal? And then we just need to jump into that deep end and talk about suicide, because you can't talk about mental health and mental illness without that risk.
Yeah, I've definitely had a couple clients who this has, the pandemic, the effects of it, whether it's doing school from home or not seeing friends, has been kind of a tipping point and has kind of increased their suicidal thinking. And because they've been in therapy with me, I've been able to see it and ask about it. But you're right, that one of the greatest kind of preventative factors for any of us is community, having people in our lives who can see us and say, hey, you know, you're kind of different. And that changes with this time. So, gosh, I think it's just important that even if you've got a suspicion that your friend is a little bit different, maybe you're not going to have as many chances to notice and see them. Like I know a lot of the boys that I work with in therapy, the way they're continuing to be social is they've got scheduled times where they get online and play video games with their friends. And a couple, kind of one of their first warning signs was, yeah, I just don't feel like it today, I'm going to skip it. And that was them getting depressed. They're checking out of something that usually is what they look forward to all week. So it's things like that. If you notice your friends not participating in points of connection like that, I think it's good to speak up. And if they won't respond to you, I've had clients who have, you know, reached out to a friend's mom or dad and said, hey, you need to check on your son. I think he's not okay. And that's been really important for them.
I did that my freshman year of college. My first time I was 17 years old, out of the house for the first time, a roommate for the first time, and even at that age, it was clear to me that this other young woman was in danger.
Yeah.
And I called her parents, and I thought, well, this could be the end of our relationship, but we need to acknowledge not making that call could have been the end of our relationship too.
Yeah.
And one is permanent, and one isn't. And they came and they helped her. You know, it's not like and now you're better in any of these instances, but it was the beginning of a process. So yes, I understand that.
And I would say if you've ever got suicidal thinking, and that's just, you know, that can sound in your head like, if I were to die, this is the way I might do it, or, you know, sometimes it just feels like it'd be better to just not be here. It can be kind of anything like that we call that suicidal thinking. And that never happens on its own. That will never be this thing that comes and then goes away. That is always going to be a piece of some depression or some really extreme anxiety. Something else is going on. So if that's in your head, it's worth talking to someone, because there are so many things we can do to help with those things.
And it can seem, if you're not aware that you are currently experiencing some other thing, that it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because I have had those thoughts, and you just kind of go like, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And then it's there. Then it's there. You know, you've crossed that line in your head, and it seems to come a little more easily the next time, which is scary and dangerous. Demetra, are you wanting to weigh in on this? I don't know if this is something you've lived with, if it's something you want to talk about or not.
Yeah, I've definitely like dealt with like suicidal thoughts and stuff. Like I would have like plans and stuff. Like last year I had like some other stuff that I was doing, and then I was just all of a sudden like it would just be so overpowering. Like I would lie to my friends and like really do anything I could to like try to make it, I guess, follow out like the way that I planned it. Like it was, I don't know, like I'm not like proud of any of that. Like I mean nobody is, but like I don't know. For me it's kind of like, for me personally, I guess it's just like hard and embarrassing in a way that like I was ever like feeling that way, because like now I'm not feeling that way. And I don't know, sometimes I just like look back at like how I, like what I did struggle with and stuff, and I talk about it and I'm like, oh, like I was like a completely different person. I was like, it's really like embarrassing to like, I don't know, like look back on like the thought patterns that I had, and yeah, I don't know.
And that sounds like a bit of like the stigma we have about mental health.
Right.
Like it's something to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
This idea that, oh, if I had it together, I wouldn't have felt that way.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important to remember that, like I was just saying, whenever you've got thoughts like this, something bigger is going on. There's a reason you're feeling that way. And often it's chemical. Often it's your brain is not able to function the way it's meant to function. And so it's firing in ways that are kind of scary to you and alarming. And then when you feel better, it's not going to fire that way anymore. You'll look back and be like, oh my gosh, how was I ever in that position? I don't feel that way anymore. So that's why it's important to talk to someone.
And when we take it, you know, again, out of mental health and into health, there isn't a time we'd say, I don't limp anymore. It's like, no, you don't limp anymore. Your foot healed. It's not broken anymore. You know, but we make this so other that we whisper about it and we, you know, say, hey, do you know a good dentist? But not, hey, do you know a good therapist?
Right.
And, you know, it's such a different thing. When you mentioned that there's something else, I read a quote right before I came here that said, beneath every behavior, there's a feeling, and beneath every feeling, there's a need. And when we meet the need, rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to deal with the cause and not the symptom.
Yeah.
Right? It's important to remember. You had some statistics about the teen and this age group we're talking about. It's on the rise, which is very frightening.
Yeah, it is. And So I'll give that statistic, and then I'll give kind of the context, kind of like what you were saying. So Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people ages 15 to 24 in our country, and the third leading cause of death from 10 to 14, which is awful.
Shocking.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's been on the rise over the last 20 years, and in fact, forget who it is, it's some big fancy, it's like the National Institute for Mental Health, some organization like that. Every few years they do a survey of different kind of groups of people, young people, middle-aged people, adults, and one of the questions they always ask is, how stressed are you? And what's usually happened since they began this survey decades ago is that all the adults who are old enough to work and have jobs, they're the most stressed. And I think around, I want to say like 2007, the teens started to report that they were more stressed than adults did, and it's stayed that way since. So I think the context for this increase in suicidal thinking and action is that I think teens and children are way more stressed than they've ever been before.
Next obvious question, why? Is this a social media connection? Is this the curated comparison that your life looks so good and mine feels so bad? Is this, we're expecting our kids to get into, very good grade schools, into high schools and into colleges and to do what we've done or maybe what we couldn't do? Where's this pressure coming from? Because as parents, we kind of had some role in that, I would think.
I think it's all those things. I've heard all of those things from clients. I've had middle schoolers come to me, and when they're listing off the things that worry them, they'll say, well, my grades aren't really that good. I'm worried I won't get into a good college. And I'm just like, when I was your age, I was playing with dirt in the backyard. Like I wasn't worried about, I wasn't worried about college.
Right.
So I'll hear that, and then, I'll hear things like, I can't tell my friends that I'm not okay because, what they see of me on my social media kind of makes it look like everything's fine. In fact, I had one client say, I tried to tell a friend I wasn't okay, and they said to me, but everything looks fine on Instagram. So these things that are fun are kind of getting in our way of having these like authentic connections and honest conversations with people. And that's not good because, again, one of the best things you can do is just talk about this stuff and feel like there are people in your life that you can be honest with about how you're doing.
And those statistics disproportionately include marginalized communities.
They do.
Including, a number including LGBTQ+. And Dimitri, you had said that that is something that in your life you have seen perhaps not feeling as free. When we say talk to someone, well, that's another way we're misunderstood or can be misunderstood.
Yeah, I feel like it's gotten a lot better, like, recently. At least that I've noticed, like, in schools, at least, like, more accepting with the LGBTQ community. For me, when I was in school, it was hard. Like, there would be, like, a lot of rumors, and it would get to me, and I was, like, afraid to be myself. And even now, like, I'm still, like, discovering myself and, like, my sexuality and, like my gender identity, and it's just all very, it's like a lifelong thing. You're never, and I really don't like how, I don't know, like some people are like so focused on like finding a label of themselves. Like I need a label of like, oh, I'm like asexual, bisexual, lesbian, gay. Like I need a label, and if I'm like any bit of another label, like, oh, I must not be this, I'm this. Like for me, I would, like, everyone is their own person. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. Like I wouldn't stress about finding a label that this box that you fit in, because realistically, like, things change, people change, like, not to say that your identity is wrong or anything, just saying that you don't have to fit in a label to be who you are. You can be yourself. You can just be yourself. And with my gender identity, I've come to terms that I'm identifying as gender fluid. This would be like my first time like coming out publicly about that, and I feel pretty good about it. If I want to give a definition of gender fluid, but like I don't want to mess it up because I didn't write any notes or anything. I'm like, ugh.
Then give us your definition.
Okay, yeah, my definition of gender fluid would be there's a female, there's a male. Gender fluid would be you're in the spectrum and you just flow back and forth. One day you could wake up, you're like, I'm a boy. The next day or a few weeks you're like, I'm feeling pretty like a female today. Like it's just fluid. It's just all over the place. Like it's just how you feel. And it's different than like your biological sex. Gender and biological sex are different things. Biological sex obviously is what you're born with. Your gender identity, it's an identity. It's how you feel inside and how you portray that and how you put that out in the world. So I just want you kids to know, and parents, because some kids may be struggling with their identity and that's okay, or their sexuality and that's okay. Yeah, I just want people to know that you don't need a label to really be yourself. You don't need a label to be like, oh, I'm bisexual, now I can be myself. You know, like you can be yourself while you're still on that journey of self-discovery. So that's what I wanted to.
And the many different ways you're on that journey, with your sexuality, also your mental health, and the things you've done to say, who am I, and who am I separate from my siblings, and who am I separate from my parents, and who am I as an individual. Those are life journeys we're all supposed to be on.
Yeah.
And as the boomer on the panel, we were a bit cookie cutter about the whole thing. It was like, and now you will, go to college, get married, have your 3-point whatever children, hopefully have your white picket fence and maybe a dog. That can be terribly confining. So I imagine that there is some freedom too in figuring out who you are when you're in your teens and your 20s, so that when you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s, you're not going, how did I get here? How did I get into this little tiny box? When maybe it isn't who you are, and maybe there's a part of you that would have liked to have been writing and singing beautiful songs, but that just wasn't the next step. You were supposed to be the prom queen or the, I don't know what, it's been so long, I can't even remember what those years were like, but I think it's very interesting to acknowledge that life is a journey, and so is self-awareness, and in all the things we're talking about, including our mental health, since that's our focus here, we need to get comfortable with acknowledging, I struggle with this, I struggle with this, and we change, and I no longer have anxiety, but wow, depression kicks me sometimes. And the more we talk about all of it, the healthier we are, and the healthier our society is, and the more we can be there for each other, because we're being honest and being real.
Yeah.
So on that note, I guess we'll wrap up this conversation and hear once again from the very talented and very open Demetra and Zach. I also want to thank you for your input and for sort of giving us that further away perspective. But my hat's off to you. I did not know myself as well as you know. I don't know that I do now, but I certainly didn't at your age. And happy almost birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was scared of heights before you came around. You knocked me off my feet. Suddenly I can breathe. You helped me find the way, a place I want to stay. Here with you, next to me is oh so great. I can be wonder why, yeah, I always feel so alone. I drink when I'm stoned, to be high when I'm cold, but you're still here. You make the hard days good. You make me feel understood, yeah. My gray skies turn to blue. The sun shines for you. It's crystal clear. And I am happy when I'm around you. I can't be myself with or without you. Can we all go back in time when the stars were finally aligned? The moments I'd spend there with you. Yeah. I'd never ask for it to change. I wouldn't have it any other way than you right here beside me.
Terry, Zach, and Demetra, I'd like to thank you all for being a part of our event today. It's such an important topic. Now, I'd like to introduce you to some organizations that have resources that are available to you.
Hi, I'm Kim Wagner, a counselor with Ozaki Family Services. We are located in Grafton, but we serve the whole county. All of our services are at a low fee, reduced fee, or free. It's part of our mission to offer services to people regardless of their financial means. So we have a variety of different programs. We offer counseling to individuals of all ages in our office, virtually, or we do meet with students in schools. We have family and youth programs ranging from a Rainbows program that helps kids overcome the loss of a caregiver, or we also offer a Family Steps program. We have girls and guys groups in our office for middle and high school age kids dealing with mental health issues. We offer a variety of different parenting programs, ranging from in-home to online resources. We also do some prevention regarding cyberbullying and internet safety, and we have some senior services as well. So it's our mission really to help people and to connect them with the services that they need. So I urge you to reach out to Ozaki Family Services, and if we can't offer you a service, we will find you one that you need.
Hello, my name is Brooke Talbot, and I am the Executive Director of RedGen. We are a local nonprofit that started in the North Shore of Milwaukee in 2013. RedGen, resilience through education for the next generation. We advocate for youth mental health and well-being by building resilience in youth in the spaces and places they are already in. This includes RedGen Faith, where we provide communities of faith with connection, resources, and training exploring the intersection of resilience and faith. RedGen Community, we engage parents, professionals, and youth-serving organizations through speaker events, documentaries, and trainings to resource and equip adults in youth lives to provide opportunities to build resilience. RedGen School. This is a peer-to-peer resilience program designed to educate and empower student leaders to raise resilience within their school community through connection, reflection, and conversation. RedGen has over 20 chapters in the local middle schools and high schools. In these schools, RedGen students and their staff advisors meet weekly to explore the Roots of Resilience curriculum. This curriculum provides education as well as opportunities for self-reflection and discussion, inspiring change within these students as well as their wider school community. RedGen student leaders are empowered to be catalysts of change within their school. By creating messaging and experiential opportunities, they increase awareness around topics of mental health, emotional well-being, and resilience, building a foundation for all youth to move from surviving into thriving, both in their school and in their lives. RedGen is an upstream model focusing on building resilience and emotional well-being, equipping youth with the tools to navigate through the challenges of life. For more information on RedGen schools, you can go to redgenschool.org. For more information on RedGen Community or RedGen Faith, you can find that at redgen.org.
Hello, I'm Melissa Drews, Program Director of Serona Recovery Ozaki Division. Starting Point and Cope Services, two organizations that have served Ozaki County communities for 40+ years, were rebranded under a new name and identity late last year. Now known as Serona Recovery, its programs provide a blend of substance use prevention and intervention services with a new behavioral health focus on coexisting mental health disorders. Our mission is to provide support, education, and evidence-based programming to individuals experiencing substance use and mental health issues. Our current menu of services include Treatment Alternatives and Diversion, known as TAD, Healing Point Sober House, the Cope Line, and our new program piloted last year, Teen Intervene. Our TAD program provides opportunities for adults in the Ozaki County courts to obtain case management and service referrals with the overall goal of reducing reoffense for each participant. The program addresses substance use and other targeted needs, and referrals are granted through the Ozaki County District Attorney. Healing Point is a sober housing program for Ozaki County male residents age 18 and older. It provides stable and affordable housing for those committed to the recovery and creates structure as participants take steps toward eventual independent living in the community. Formerly known as the Cope Hotline of Cope Services, the newly branded Cope Line is a free and confidential phone number that offers support, resources, and crisis intervention to Ozaki County residents of all ages. Through the guidance of trained listeners, the Cope Line provides emotional support for a variety of challenges and life stressors. Lastly, Teen Intervene is an evidence-based program for youth aged 12 to 19 that's focused on addressing alcohol, marijuana, and tobacco e-cigarette use. The program serves teens who may be experimenting to those engaged in more consistent and persistent use of these substances. Services include an initial screen and referral to our programming, which can include virtual or in-person youth sessions and a parent-guardian session. Sessions are geared towards substance use education, decision-making, handling peer pressure, and working toward behavior change through assessing readiness and setting goals together. The program ultimately is designed to give youth the opportunity to reflect on substance use and its potential impacts on their lives. We are located at the Ozaki Nonprofit Center just off Highway 60 in Grafton. The new building provides connections to other Ozaki County nonprofits and various meeting spaces. Visit www.serona-recovery.org to learn more about our programs, or call 262-377-1477 for service inquiries and scheduling.
When you or someone you love is struggling with mental health or addiction, you may feel alone, afraid. You might feel like giving up, but know that there is hope. At Rogers Behavioral Health, we'll help you find a path to recovery with specialized care that blends science and compassion. Reach out today, and together, we can not only face your challenges, we can rise above them.
If I had never come here, I am not sure that I would be alive.
I remember nights I prayed not to wake up. Just being at Rogers, that changed my life. I felt freedom.
The kind of above and beyond caring that I had never experienced before from mental health professionals.
And it was to the point where I was just so incredibly impaired. I'm in such a different place now. And a lot of that is, or most of it is because of Rogers.
It was the best thing I ever did. I owe Rogers my life.
And as much as you think that nobody will care, somebody will care. And all it took was a phone call.
Once again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this evening in this very important conversation. If you'd like to find out more about Gathering in a Green, please go to our website, gatheringinthegreen.org, or follow us on Facebook. To all of you, good night.